What is free will? It is the ability or state of being in which a human being can act and or think independently of any and all things in their environment. It allows people to exert a level of control over their lives and making decisions that steers their lives to the outcomes they desire. However, what happens when someone is stripped of that free will? Or, more importantly, what happens when free will isn't even an option when you are brought into existence? Such is the case of Phase 4, a near perfect clone of Dead or Alive's main protagonist, Kasumi. Her full name is Kasumi Alpha Phase 4, as she is the fourth rendition of the Kasumi clones birthed by the Mist organization. The purpose? Well, what evil capitalistic corporation wouldn't want an army of murderous, mass-produced, completely controlled, seemingly underage kunoichis?
What?
But in all seriousness, Phase 4, as she is referred to in-game, is the most controversial of Kasumi's clones, as she is the exact copy that the Mist organization sought to make, but also somehow retained Kasumi's consciousness. And by consciousness, I mean her compassionate nature. She is the perfect killing machine, but still feels remorse for her actions. So, what happens when you have said killing machine who cannot escape their programming and combine them with a compassionate mindset that allows them to be aware of their wrongdoings? You get a philosophical existential crisis existing within a fabricated human that is constantly in emotional and mental turmoil. So, let's explore this dilemma and answer this question that I'm proposing. Does Phase 4 have the capacity for free will? And if not, does that reduce her humanity? Does her capacity of free will, or lack thereof, make her less human? Let's discuss. But before we even get to the philosophical aspect, we have to first address who Phase 4 even is and her connection to the Mist organization that created her. Phase 4 was created by a rogue scientist named Dr. Victor Donovan, who used Kasumi's DNA to create a clone with enhanced abilities. She has a unique fighting style that focuses on fast and powerful attacks with a combination of kicks and punches. In the game's storyline, Phase 4 is portrayed as a mysterious and enigmatic character who seeks to fulfill her own objectives, which are not always clear. She is also shown to have a connection with the game's main protagonist, Donovan, and is involved in various conflicts throughout the series. The name Phase 4, as it states, is a part of the fourth phase of Kasumi's clones that Mist had created and developed. Mist is a weapon R&D organization formed by Victor Donovan as a smaller group inside of Duotech. Mist became larger than expected as they grew in various facilities under Duotech's noses and continued what's known as Project Alpha, the cloning program that Kasumi was forced into when she was captured. The project would produce clones of Kasumi that would have her DNA and thus improve their fighting skills. Despite their setbacks with other parts of the project, Mist was successful at creating their clones. From their initial success of Kasumi Alpha, assuming Phase 1, to their success of Kasumi 152, Donovan and his organization were basically on Cloud 9. As the template for their mass production of clones, Phase 4 carries herself with a darker, edgier persona to Kasumi, warning her opponent that she will hurt them even if she doesn't want to, and upon winning, she harshly tells them to stay out of her way. She sometimes will question her reasons for fighting, asking if it's her sole purpose in life, and will also sometimes solemnly state that she's taken one more, implying that either fighting or even more sadly, taking her opponent's life is nothing but routine for her. Despite this darkness and her role as a human weapon, unlike other Kasumi clones, Phase 4 has her own free mind and possesses feelings of her own as a human being, explaining why she hesitates to kill people and why she may want to live as a normal person. While Phase 4 has her own free mind, she does not, unfortunately, have her own free will, as Mist went through extensive testing procedures to ensure that she does not go beyond her programming. And the worst thing is, Phase 4 knows this, and it adds to her inner turmoil. Which leads us to the topic at hand. Is her inner turmoil indicative of human consciousness? We said earlier that Phase 4 is a fabricated human because she was made for Kasumi's DNA. But does the method of conception used to bring her into existence disqualify her from personhood? To answer this, we turn to the story of Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, as it depicts a perfect example of utilizing the themes of fate and free will. The story placates on how man's actions are based on desire and knowledge more so than free will. Oedipus, considered a tragic hero, goes through a series of events as a man who is fully developed in his righteousness and blind certainty that his actions are just. However, the outcomes of his actions ends up being the opposite of his depicted character. His beliefs of the world, basically a falsehood, and discovering that the world is not what he thought it out to be. Oedipus, being the powerful person that he was blind to how destructive his actions really were, and his free will and conviction drove him to continue his actions, even though they were against his very character. He was basically chaotic good, willing to do whatever it took to bring justice and to keep his city clean and healthy. However, the tragedy of his free will and the tragedy of the entire concept is that when we act accordingly, we act in the hopes that what we do makes an impact in favor of our desires, and those desires are just and fair, or at the very least, they do good in some way, shape, or form. But when we do so without introspection, our desire to do good can be destructive, especially if we bring the concept of predeterminism into this. But we won't get into that because that's a whole other video, and this video ended up being a lot longer. What we can take from this is that the desire to do good is indicative of personhood. Oedipus, despite his free will blinding him from the truth, demonstrated goodness in order to exhibit his self-worth, which is a motivator for many people's actions. We act to do good to gauge our self-worth and to demonstrate the freedoms that we have. With that, I argue that if and or when free will is taken, personhood still remains. If the individual or being still desires to do good, or at the very least has the level of awareness that their actions have the potential to do good, and that they seek positive outcomes for themselves and for others. In the context of the game storyline, Phase 4 is primarily a combatant, created by the main antagonist to serve as a weapon against the protagonists. Her actions and motives are driven by the will of her creator and the circumstances of the game's plot, rather than any inherent moral values or ethical principles. It is important to remember that Phase 4 does not possess the same agency or moral responsibility as a real person. However, because of her free mind and the pain that she feels from not being able to stop herself from combat, she demonstrates, at the very least, the awareness of her wrongdoings. However, the question isn't so much if she's a good person, but rather if she has the potential for personhood. And due to how her mind recognizes that she doesn't want to commit these acts against others, I think we could say that Phase 4 is essentially human, or at the very least, capable of personhood. Despite her free will being undermined by Donovan and the Mist organization, her existence, in my opinion, deserves personhood, as her mind recognizes the desire for changing things, to no longer be enslaved. The absence of free will does not omit the desire of wanting good and better things for one's life. It simply takes away the ability to act upon that desire willingly. And as tragic as her fate is, Phase 4 is still essentially a person. Dare say human. And that's it for the video. It was a bit short, but I wasn't planning on going too long with this. And honestly, if you made it all the way here, then thank you. I haven't touched the Dead or Alive series in a while, gameplay wise, especially because of what happened with DOA 6 and the microtransactions that are literally the amount of one of my paychecks. Not to mention, the physics of the female characters have been quite an attraction since the gaming series' conception, and shamefully is the reason why I played them. Regardless, the lore of the series is interesting, to say the least, and after remembering Phase 4's story, it was definitely worth a quick study. So, if you liked this video, let me know if you want more philosophical-based videos about gaming characters. Philosophy isn't really my forte, but it's really fascinating to explore video game characters in this manner. So, if you're interested, give this video a like, share it, comment down below if you disagree or agree with the concept of free will and Phase 4 in general, and subscribe if you'd like to see more stuff like this. Thanks for watching, stay blessed and prosperous.
So sorry, but this fight is mine.
I don't want to hurt you, but...
Get ready, fight!
I shall end it!
No breaks for
Not
you.
like this! This may hurt!
Winner!
I have taken one more.